Hey everybody, we're back again. This time we're talking about the next phases of compensation. This week the discussions are really geared around what goes into a compensation system. Not like the last week where we're talking about the individual pieces and parts that go into a total rewards package, but really what's the basis, what's the foundation for building a compensation structure. If you go out there into the marketplace, you're going to see a bunch of different designs. You have pay for performance systems that include increases to the base. They're done on an annual basis, on a quarterly basis. You see bonus systems, you see commission structures, you see step and grade type of processes like they use in public sector quite a bit. You'll see all kinds of different approaches. And what you'll also find is that the smaller the company, the less structured that it typically is, which gets a lot of businesses into some trouble, because what it comes down to is they don't pay attention to the three things that matter most about a compensation system. And so really, some of the bases of our discussion questions this week are talking about these big three. And so when you're going into either evaluate a current compensation system or you're structuring one from scratch, really there are three components that we need to pay attention to when we're building a compensation program. These three functions are internal equity, external competitiveness, and the company's ability to pay for pay. So number one, internal equity. Internal equity talks about how one job relates to another, where it is in consideration to all the other positions in the organization. The way we typically assess internal equity is to use some kind of a system or methodology. Now, the smaller the company, the more that it's going to rely on the owner or the chief executive officer to say simply, well, that job's more important than this job, so we're going to pay it more. If you start to do that kind of ballparking where it's just based on opinion mostly, you're going to get into some troubles with pay equity and especially gender, other protected classes. You're going to have some challenges there. When you take a look at internal equity, really, it starts with the job description. And before the job description, that's what describes the job. There's a step before that that's called the job evaluation, right? So typically and many of you may have been through this process in your own organization, where we come up with a job analysis questionnaire. And we're asking different questions and asking for different pieces of input about a particular job. Now, what goes into the assessment and what matters to the organization differs, right? For some, education is going to weigh more heavily than in other organizations. For some, experience in the position, responsibility, job scope, the breadth of influence, the amount of leadership or management responsibility. Some of those factors are all weighing into what comes up to through this job assessment, this job analysis process. Anyway, step one is you do the job analysis and you ask the questions and you evaluate how does this job compare in these factors. These factors are what are referred to as compensable factors. You'll see that in your text materials. After this assessment is created, they typically draft a job description, and then these job descriptions go into a job evaluation process. The evaluation process takes a look at the position as it's described based upon the information they collected through the job analysis. And based on the criteria, they're going to give it a rank, some kind of a score, some kind of something. But what it's going to do is effectively place and say, all right, this job over here, here's this receptionist position, it scored this based on the criteria that we're evaluating on. This other position ranks here. The lead engineer ranks here because these are the compensable factors, or the factors in our organization for which we're going to compensate them. So as you stack these up, you start to see these groups start to form. You start to see clusters of jobs that make sense. Maybe some lower admin positions start around in here. You're starting to get into some upper admin or some upper hourly folks. You get into some professional level jobs. You see in some management and supervisory positions. Anyway, that's typically the internal equity process, is to figure out what matters most to your organization, and you evaluate the job based on that. I'm not sure that I did it justice on explaining it in 2 minutes, but that's kind of where it's at. The second part is external competitiveness, which really gets into the market valuation of the position. This is where you go out to the marketplace and you say, what's this job worth in the marketplace? Now, we talked last week about why different jobs are paid different wages depending on where you're at in the organization or where we're at in the country. Same thing applies here. Based on where you're at, the nature of the job, the type of organization that you're in, your job's going to have some different values. Now, most organizations go to some kind of salary survey type of a company, such as salary.com. I will tell you that the value of the information that you get is directly correlated to how much you pay for it. If you want really good and accurate market data about positions, you're going to have to pay for it. If you go out there and Google positions, or you go to Career Builder or Monster.com or Department of Labor and you get some of those ballparks, those are so broad. It's almost like saying, hey, you want to come be a checker at the local Kmart. Well, that pay range can be anywhere between $7.25 an hour up to $15.95 an hour. Now, it's that broad. It's pretty ridiculous. So understand the market assessment, going out and finding out how much a job is worth. There's some different ways to do that, but that's important that you get accurate job information. The third piece, right? So we've got internal equity, how one job relates to the other. We've got market competitiveness, right? How much the job is worth out there in the marketplace. The third part is the ability to pay. If a company is running pretty lean and pretty tight, it's in ultra startup mode, they're not going to be able to pay premium prices for these positions. A salary survey will tell us, well, this is how much the job is worth, but it's going to be at different levels. So if you want to be at market, here's where you're at. If you want to be above market, then what you're going to do is you're going to increase the rate that you're willing to pay for the position, which ultimately results in a better selection of candidates most of the time. And it makes sense from a supply and demand perspective. If you want better, you're going to have to pay a little bit more for it. So, but you can take a look at that. In other situations, they may say, "Here's the market," but we may decide to pay less than the market, and for a number of reasons. Maybe our benefits package is very rich and compensates for the lower base pay. Maybe we just can't afford it, and we're going to hope for the best. But do keep in mind that you get what you pay for when it comes to talent. That's not to say that every highly compensated individual is worth their weight in their paycheck, but it is to say that in most cases you get what you pay for. You can't pay $7.25 an hour and expect to have a rocket scientist come to work for you. It doesn't work that way. So anyway, those are the basic three components, and I'm sorry it's a little rambling there, but just wanted to introduce those three as the big pieces. So internal equity, external competitiveness, and the company's ability to pay. Those are the big three as to what influences the design and the structure and the ability to move forward and sustain a pay model. So hope that helps. Let me know under this thread if you have any questions, and be happy to talk about it or discuss it further. So thanks.